Today's video is brought to you in part by Mashdrop and the PC37X headset. Early on in League of Legends, there was an extremely large skill gap between players. Because the game was relatively new, some of the elements that contributed to this were as follows. Summoners were ignorant to best-in-class strategies and the word meta. People weren't mechanically proficient yet because they were still learning the game. People didn't understand matchups and how to exploit the dreaded counter lane. Summoners were also still trying to figure out the best builds, rune setups, and masteries to run. In fact, most of us had little idea what was optimal across any of it. And many of us didn't quite understand the core concepts of such things like warding placement, how to effectively trade, what a proper harassment window looked like, or just learning the basics of animation canceling or comboing. More importantly though, most summoners during early seasons just didn't know how to take advantage of these acquired skills to get a competitive advantage. In the 10 years since its launch though, most recurring players have had a chance to figure it out. They've gained competency. There will always be imbalances between skill on teams in this game. That cannot be overstated. But given the algorithm for matching up players of like skill, which works out more often than not, hopefully, players enter matches on relatively the same page, which creates even playing fields regardless of competency level. What is often understated entirely is the fact that the average player in this 10-year running game is much more skilled today because after all, the more you play, the more you're going to get better at the game, naturally. And with the masses of accessible resources on hand, champion guides, build websites, and live tournaments, which are all essentially free access to learning how the game should be played, it further increases the ease at which player proficiency skyrockets as the years go by. Thus, the time required to become competent in League of Legends and learn what to build and how to play optimally has decreased dramatically over time. It has replaced the need to learn the game by trial and error, which was the bread and butter of the fun for the first few years of League of Legends. No longer are players required to conjure up their own builds when the best one has been figured out for each class and is only a few clicks away. No longer do individuals need to learn matchups or counterpicking, simply pull up championselect.net. No longer is years of hardened learning inside the game necessary to acquire non-mechanical game knowledge. Simply watch a stream to see the best places to ward, how to invade a jungle, or bait out a counter gank. You can also learn how to poke, be a lane bully, trade, and deny CS simply by watching the industry's best go at it head to head, and then go practice it yourself. Need to find the best item to buy on Draven? Simply check out the recommended buying guide inside the game client, which wasn't always there. Better yet, go online while you're at it. The only thing these resources cannot teach you is mechanical skill, which is the other part to becoming a competent League of Legends player. But given how long the game has been out, this is also now a wash, since most recurring players today are much better than they were in the past, given the huge training ground of up to 10 years now. Thus, League of Legends is in a state where every player has instant access to game knowledge, and they've grown more comfortable with the game over time on top. Thus, the skill gap is perpetually closing in on itself. League of Legends has an incredibly high skill ceiling, but because growing average skill levels and access to information across the board are much higher today, sometimes it doesn't feel like it. It often feels like players don't have much wiggle room to become better than the next summoner as they could more easily in the past. During the first couple seasons of League, the skill gap was much higher between players. Not only did players have to acquire game knowledge like builds and itemization through actual gameplay, remember there weren't any databases or websites at the time, but they were also playing a brand new game. There's a lot of champions in League, and some of them are pretty complex. There's also a lot to learn, and when you consider the endless amount of combinations of spells, movesets, and interactions among the roster, you quickly realize that it was going to take a long time to figure it all out. But as years have gone by, consistent play just makes you better, and fast forwarding today, if you were at least mildly regular during League's run, you've become proficient and you've got the baseline mechanics down. Today, League plays out a lot different than it used to. Because player competency has been acquired by the masses and everyone has access to everything they need to know about the game, there is inherently less of a skill gap among relatively skilled players. You can certainly get better, and when you do, you'll find yourself in the next tier of League players who are slightly better, and eventually most of those players will hit a soft wall, and that's where they'll stay. If we simply rewound time though, many of those players would be able to flex their skills and get better by putting in more time to gain said skill that time has otherwise allowed people to acquire as the years have passed by. I enjoy League of Legends today, but a large part of me thinks that the early days of League were a lot more rewarding to play because the skill gap was much wider. Putting in the same time 8 years ago than you did today, you'd probably find yourself in more control over the outcome of any given match. You could abuse skill more, since it hadn't been handed to players through mainstream media and slowly acquired over the long haul of the game's lifespan. The early times of League, nobody really knew what they were doing, so if you put in the work, you could flex those muscles a bit more. You could win more if you think about it. In today's League, the homogenization of skill has created a different experience. There's simply less of an ability for an individual to carry a game when the average skill and knowledge of the enemy team is higher than it used to be a long time ago. And that's not a fault with the game, it's a side effect of the evolution of that game. It begs the question, are games more fun early on when players are figuring out the game, or are games more fun down the road when everyone knows what's going on? For me, I love the initial founder days of competitive video games, when skill gaps are wild and broad as to make the environment ripe for the taking if you take the time to master the game. Hey, what's going on, guys? Before I wrap up this video, I want to make sure to thank our sponsor today, Massdrop, and the Sennheiser PC37X headset, which is actually the headset I use. It's incredibly lightweight. It's actually got an inch of velvet padding as well near the earbuds, so it's super comfortable. And I've been using it a lot lately. It's actually my go-to headset when I go gaming, and it's got a nice microphone as well that has an automatic shut-off feature down right here. It's basically got everything you want in one pretty affordable package, and it's like 5-star rated almost from over like 10,000 people on their website. So I would highly encourage you guys, if you need a new headset, to check this one out. So if you want to support me and a nice product in the process, you can click the link in the description. It's going to be right there at the top. Thanks for watching, guys. You guys take care.